That's We Are Live.
Okay.
Tell Andrew to stop frowning.
All right. Hey, everybody. I think we are live. Okay. So I'm just going to give people a second to hop on. Hello, everybody. Welcome, my friends. All right. So I will try to manage the comments best I can when I'm not speaking. But we're going to get started. I figured we'd get started by just introducing ourselves, what our podcast is called, briefly what it's about, and why we decided to join the Doctor Podcast Network, where doctors podcast. So I'll go last. Whoever wants to take the first one, go for it.
May.
Me. Oh, okay, of course. I was the last at the table, so I'm the first to go. So, hi, everybody. My name is May Hindmarsh. My husband and I, Tim Hindmarsh, actually just have launched our podcast 2 weeks ago. We have 2 episodes out, so exciting.
Woohoo.
It's called BS Free MD. And basically, it's pretty exciting. It's a little work in progress that happened kind of from the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, when we started doing live streams on Facebook for friends and patients, ex-patients who had a lot of questions about the pandemic, obviously. And it was just a fun way to connect with everybody, answer questions. And honestly, from there, it just kind of rapidly snowballed into hey, this is really fun. We should maybe take this on the road and make it a podcast, because we had actually been talking about it for a couple of years, mostly because Tim and I, both of us having done family practice and now in urgent care for me 10 years, are always having, as you can imagine, a 2-physician household, having discussions about things we're doing at work, questioning what we're doing, challenging some of the things in medicine that we do or see, questions that people ask. We're always having these conversations at home, and we don't always agree on things, which makes it really fun when friends or patients hear our discussions, whether it's at work, in the hallway, in social settings. And so we thought, this is really, I think, the natural way that we work things out amongst ourselves as clinicians. But how do we communicate to patients in a way also that they can understand the stuff that we're discussing and sort of bring it to the table to them to understand? So basically, the gist of our podcast is presenting medical information, whether it's physical medicine, mental health issues, social issues in medicine, spiritual issues, and having a discussion about some of the stuff we do, whether it's good or not, and how clinicians can think about what they're doing, and also how to present it to patients so that the listeners that are patients out there and non-medical can understand what we're talking about. So that's it in a nutshell, I guess.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Brad, you're up.
So I host the Physician's Guide to Doctoring. And for me, the reason I started the show is because at the time, there wasn't really anything out there for personal or professional development for physicians. Like, how can I be a better physician? Sure, there's plenty of stuff out there for how I can be a better rheumatologist or orthopedic surgeon, like with regards to surgical skills. But what about all the other stuff? And although I'm an otolaryngologist, so supposedly I'm a surgeon, I do surgery. I just did surgery this morning, so I really do surgery. But in private practice, the bulk of what we do is non-surgical. Like I spend 4 or 4.5 days a week in the office and maybe a half a day or a full day in the operating room. And, my wife is the one in the relationship that's good at communication. Like, she goes to a party and leaves and everybody's her best friend. Whereas me, I stand in the corner with a glass of whiskey and my arms crossed and don't talk to anybody. So she's the one with the social skills and I'm not. So, I thought, what, there are people out there teaching these skills, and it'll help me be a better doctor because it'll help me connect with my patients and it'll be more fulfilling for them and more fulfilling for me. And so, but how do you get an audience with people with expertise in this? You start a podcast. So I started a podcast. And one thing that I think physicians don't realize is your network is already big because of what you do. Like, you're surrounded by experts. So I started by just interviewing my friends. I mean, it turns out one of my good friends is the program director for GI at University of Rochester. So she's one of the people that I interviewed first. My brother has a PhD in health policy. And so, he's been on the show a bunch of times to talk about health policy related issues. So, if you're a physician thinking about it, or in the allied health professionals, just think the people that you went to high school with, the people that you went to college with, the people that you went to professional school with, they're experts in something. And so you can always start with them. But now I get to call up strangers and be like, you've got some great ideas. I'd love for you to teach it to my physician audience. Like the whale that I had was BJ Fogg. And some people might not know who he is, but he's a behavioral scientist out of Stanford who studied habits. So he found the secret to starting habits, which is something all of our patients need, right? They need to know how to start habits. So, I had him on the show to talk about it, and I'm looking forward to just, more exciting and more interesting guests that'll help me be a better doctor. So as I'm becoming a better doctor, hopefully my audiences as well.
Well, Brad, the people I went to college with certainly have skills to teach, but I don't know if I want them teaching them to my audience. You know what I mean? That's all.
How to do a keg stand? Yeah, we're not. I don't think we're gonna have
I'm not video.
An episode on keg stands. Yeah.
We got a comment saying we're all connected. Yeah, great point. And anybody who's listening out there, throw some hearts to know that you actually care about what we're talking about. We appreciate all the hearts we're getting. All right, the illustrious Dr. John Jurica, what do you got? John, you're muted. You're muted.
Okay, am I still muted?
No, now we can hear.
So many brilliant things while I was muted. It's just out there. All right, I'm a family physician. I'm actually doing urgent care now. I'm a part owner. I'm an entrepreneur, but I only work one day a week now, thank God. I've been doing a podcast for 3 years. I started my podcast called Physician NonClinical Careers, which you could probably figure out what that's about, because I wanted to learn about non-clinical careers. So I thought, well, I'm just going to interview a bunch of people that are doing non-clinical careers. I actually cover things like unconventional careers that are clinical as well. And I'm certainly not against physicians practicing medicine as long as they're not burnt out and ready to shoot themselves. So this is one way to give them an out. So it's been fun. It's been over 3 years. I think I've got episode 180 coming up soon. And, when I started, and it's not that long ago, there really weren't that many physician podcasters. But now there's certainly a lot more. And so when I heard about DPN, I thought, well, this is going to be cool, because I'm a joiner. I always join everything. So it's like, okay, we can get together, where we're not actually podcasting and producing, learn from each other, and just see what other physicians are up to, and then collaborate. And so I think it's great. Yeah, that's it. That's my story.
So I have a question for you, John. You have a clinical career.
I do have a clinical career.
So have you learned from 180 episodes anything that you're like, you know what? I'm gonna pursue that non-clinical career. I'm out.
So here's the secret. 15, I think it was 20 years ago, actually, I moved into a leadership position at a hospital as VPMA, and I was a chief medical officer, and I stopped doing all clinical for 4 years. So that was interesting, going back to clinical, but I didn't go into urgent care primarily because I was that interested in urgent care. It was more of an opportunity. I had somebody that wanted to invest, and I became the medical director. And so I've always had that little bit of entrepreneurial streak. I used to own my own practice, so I went back into it. So now I'm phasing back out again. So we'll see how that goes.
So you want to hear a really cool story? I think I might have shared this on, I don't know, on our live stream or in the meeting. I think I did share it in the meeting. But anyway, for everybody out there that might not have heard it, your podcast was the very first one I discovered, other than Tim got me listening to, what is it? That one, I can't even remember the name of it, some rock show thing with Dave something or other. Anyway, I never listened to podcasts.
Very memorable.
What's that? So we were going through a rough patch. Our 2020 was 2019. And I had a lot of time on my hands in the garden and with my own thoughts. And after a while, those got boring. So I got into podcasting, and I discovered your podcast. And I was like, this is cool because I need out of medicine. How do I get out? Oh, yay. And I loved it. So, yes, listening to your podcast was, it's awesome. I love it. The content was great. But from there, then it took me into, I discovered Ryan Inman, who that was another life-changing thing we needed, was some financial help with where we were at. But I got hooked on his podcast as well. And so it just snowballed, and this is where I'm at today because of all the connections through there. But there you go. Cheers to you.
Thank you. One thing that's interesting, if you ask around, I can still find 30% of people have never listened to a single podcast, don't even know what a podcast is. It's just
Right.
hard for us to believe, I think, because we're like in it. But so I think we're still, that whole thing is growing. It's going to continue to grow as people find it.
Yeah, I'll second what May said. I started with physician podcasting by listening to John's show. And I was at the end of residency and just got out of residency and was immediately burnt out. And I agreed. I was just like, oh, that could be a good idea. That could be a good idea. Eventually found my way. But John is how I got started listening to podcasts. So.
Well, just so you know, everybody's burnt out at the end of residency. Don't be discouraged. That's normal.
Oh, no. Even thereafter. So
jaded.
I know. But all right, we got Brent. You're up next, man.
All right. I'm Brent Lacey. My show is The Scope of Practice, and so named because I'm a gastroenterologist, so I had to throw scope in there somewhere. And so I cut my teeth as a financial coach, actually. When I came out of fellowship, I taught the Dave Ramsey class, the Financial Peace University at my church, for a long time. I think I taught it 13 times, something like that.
So cool.
And really, really enjoyed it, and actually built out a full financial discipleship ministry at my church, and it became this huge thing, and started getting asked to do that at my hospital and for the residents and the students. And I remember I would just get asked the same about 8 or 10 questions every time. And I remember thinking to myself, it'd be nice if I had like a blog or something where I could just point people to some articles that I wrote and that would just answer their questions for them. And then I thought, hey, why don't I just have a blog where I can write some articles about some stuff like this? And so that's what I did. And so started out by just writing a bunch of stuff, and then started doing that for about 6 months or so, and then realized, this is fun, but I miss talking to people. I got into this because I like relationships. I like, just talking to folks. And so I was listening to Pat Flynn's Smart Passive Income podcast at the time. So it was just kind of the non-physician corollary to John's show, I guess. And started learning a lot and decided, I'm going to try the podcasting thing. So we've got close on to 50 episodes published now. And it's been a ton of fun. But we talk about so all the stuff that you needed to learn in med school about being a doctor and you didn't. So it's a place where you can grow your leadership skills, your business management skills, and your personal finance skills. And so we've had some amazing guests on there. I've had people that are national authors. I've had people that have huge podcasting shows that have no business coming on my little show. And yet they just seem to gravitate towards it. It's been great. It's been a really high class group of folks. And a lot of the folks that you see on the screen have either been on already or are coming on soon. So it's definitely worth checking out.
All right. Kate, my co-host for today.
Yay. Okay. So hello, friends. My name is Kate, and I used to be an actress. No, I'm just kidding. I only was like in the chorus in High School Musicals, but I love getting out there. And the podcasting journey really started for me during the beginning of the pandemic, when I realized I needed a change in mindset. I had been in a very happy marriage for 6 years, but I wasn't showing up the way I wanted to show up. And it took me 6 years to realize that. And then I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? So then I started joining different physician coaching programs and realizing it was like all up to me. Everything was up to me. It wasn't up to my husband. It wasn't up to my children. It wasn't up to my parents. And so then I started learning about relationships, and I was like, I love this. This is amazing. I want to do this all the time. And I want to, and like Brad was saying, I'm surrounded by this huge network of physician couples or just other physicians who are in relationships who have so much wisdom and who may have been through rough relationships and are now in amazing relationships, and they have all these things they're always working on and just so much advice. And I'm like, well, I've got to take this. I've got to interview everybody I know and share it with the world. Because that was another question I had for myself, is how am I going to grow as a person, but how am I going to add value to the world? And I'm like, okay, well, and so I still remember inviting my first two guests on my show. I was so nervous because, there was no show. And I was like, okay, there's going to be this show called Medicine, Marriage, and Money. Would you want to be a guest? And they both said yes. And I was like, oh my gosh. And then started interviewing all my physician friends. And I mean, they just blew my mind. Their mindsets on marriage and being in a medical marriage, and then how they deal with finances. And I felt like I learned a lot. I was taking notes. And so far, I think my audience has gained some different perspectives on marriages and just relationships in general. So that's why I started, and that's why I'm still here. And and my husband has been a huge cheerleader for me, Victor, because he also does Facebook Lives all the time on finance. So that's kind of where we were. We were in finance and real estate. I was kind of in his passionate world for 6 years. And then I realized, hey, I've got more than just learning about finances and being in real estate. I got to talk about relationships and love. So
you're talking about family, and storage units and commercial plots. No?
Oh, wait, what was that, Brad? He's breaking up for me. Is he breaking up for you guys?
Yeah, he's breaking up for us too.
What about now? What if I get real close to the mic?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Oh, I guess I just wasn't. I've done like 100 episodes and I don't know how to use a mic. Maybe. Sorry about that, everyone. Okay. So you're saying you don't get excited about multifamily real estate and commercial plots and storage units? And
I get excited. I definitely get more excited when I saw like the paychecks coming through and but the connections is where it's at. You know what I mean? Like I like to have good relationships in our partnerships. And when they're not there, it's not exciting for me. And yeah. So
it's exciting. I mean, there's an absolute need and a huge, don't say market, but I mean, there's nothing like that. Gosh, not even that long ago. And to have that, I just look at it as sort of mentorship, as a place to learn from other couples that have gone through that. I mean, what better mentor than that? Instead of, having other people, your therapist, whoever, sort of tell you how to work it out, just to learn from people that have life experience and wisdom. And I mean, you're going to have endless guests on there and just diverse opinions. And I'm really excited for that, because it's something that is going to be, that's widely needed and will be just sucked up with people so thirsty for that information. That's really cool.
Oh, thank you, May. I know. See, people don't talk about their marriages in medicine or at work. I mean, it's like focus on the job, focus on the patient, and then what's going on at home.
And physician couples
I think all of us have some of that. I mean, so people don't talk about burnout very much. It's kind of an embarrassing subject. People don't like to talk about money. We don't like to talk about marriage, and there's no one out there going to help us. I mean, no one cares about the docs, because they got their own problems. So we got to be helping each other. That's one of the things I love about this community that we've got here, is we all get to support each other and help each other out.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. I mean, so I guess my turn. So in the comments, the wonderful Desiree, who is the reason the Doctor Podcast Network continues to do what it does, is putting all of our links to our shows. So thank you, Desiree. And we also got some bicep emojis from Peter Kim. So thanks, Peter. We appreciate that. So for those who don't know me, my name is Andrew Tisser. I'm an emergency physician. I'm a career strategist for docs. And additionally, I'm the host of the Talk2MeDoc Podcast. My very first guest was someone you may know, John Jurica. So he helped me out as well. The show originally started as to focus on communication and healthcare amongst the team. I had a security guard in Chicago before I left give me a bottle of champagne and told me that I he got me a gift because I talked to him like a person, which was like, oh God, please. That's horrible. So the first season of the show really focused on communication, and we ran that out for quite some time, and a lot of the same themes emerged. And at the same time, my interests were becoming more in line with young doctors and doctors early in their career. So I shifted the show to pivot to talk about issues relating to the early career physician specifically, because today's graduating resident is different than graduating resident from 10 years ago in many aspects. So we're talking about a wide range of issues. I bring guests from within and outside of healthcare to talk about all kinds of things in relation to the early career physician. And the reason I joined the Doctor Podcast Network is I love talking to people. And my wife tells me I talk to people on the plane too much, but I don't care. And I'm that guy. Sorry. But no, I really appreciate the community aspect of it, being able to do fun things like this, learn from each other, as well as just amplify our message to help get our show into the ears of more doctors and see who each one of us can help. So that's why I joined. So introductions are over. That was great, everybody. Thank you. I have a few questions that were sent to me prior to the show about podcasting, and anyone could take a stab at whatever question. But the first one is, doesn't podcasting take a lot of time? How do you have time to be a full-time physician and a podcaster? And anyone can take a stab at that one. I know the answer is probably yes.
So I'll take a stab at that one. I think I would say it massively depends on what your goals are and how intense you want to get with the podcast. So you can get very, very simple with it. You buy a microphone for, you can get a good quality microphone for like $90 on Amazon, and then just record yourself talking about stuff that is interesting to you for 15 minutes and put it on one of the big hosting platforms like Buzzsprout or Libsyn, and bam, you got yourself a podcast. I mean, so you can do minimal work and have a show that may or may not have some good outreach, and it can be just kind of a fun hobby for you. Or if you're if you want to take it to the next level, like most of us have, and you're going for social media outreach and high value production, getting some music behind it and interviewing guests, then yeah, it can take some time. But if here's my thought: is if you got through med school, you can get through something as simple as podcasting. I mean, you just can. You just start learning how to batch your production. How to just like do a bunch of interviews in quick succession, so that way you have a bunch of stuff in the bank, and then you're not just constantly behind the eight ball. There's definitely some tricks for it, and if anyone's out there thinking about joining the network, all of us are eager to help people out. So we do a lot of work, helping each other out on our Slack channel and stuff. So and there's a lot of great resources out there that can help you get started. But I think the more you put into it, the more you're going to get out of it. But it's a very easy thing to break into with minimal time, I think.
And I think I would jump in and just say that the technical part becomes pretty easy. The hard part is spend time thinking about exactly what you're going to create. What is the theme? What is the topic? And is it going to be weekly, bi-weekly, random? Is it going to be, with guests, without guests? Is it going to be 5 to 15 minutes or 30 to 60 minutes or anything in between? And that's the part that really takes time and a lot of thought. But once you've gone through that, yeah, you can really do a podcast on your cell phone, actually, and get it into Buzzsprout, whatever, and get it out in no time. Now, you might want to have a little more quality, as Brent mentioned, but yeah, that's not really the limiting factor. I mean, to put something out that nobody wants to listen to is probably not worth doing. But if you can figure it out, or try it for a while and see if anyone listens.
Yeah, I don't understand that about a lot of podcasts. They start out with just the people, and I apologize if anyone on the show does this, but they start off just chatting with each other about how their week was. Like I doubt any of my listeners really care how my week went. Like they're listening to my show because they want to learn something new, and the banter is nice, but but some people do that. And so if you want to start off just to do that, to get used to the technology, get used to how to upload it, and get the logistics down, then I think that's a great way to do it. Because the hardest thing about podcasting is starting, right? Once you've started, I saw everybody nod to that. Once you've started, then it becomes easier. Then you can tweak it here and there, but just like recording the first episode and posting it, there's a lot of stuff that you need to learn about the logistics of it. But once you do that, it's super easy. And as a physician, we do earn more than most, debt notwithstanding, and, place of living, all that. And so we've got some more disposable income so that we can outsource things like that. You can outsource editing, you can outsource production, you can outsource. But when I was on Andrew's show, we talked about how it's a money pit. So you shouldn't be starting a podcast in order to make money. If that's your goal, you're going to be disappointed. Like the likelihood that you're going to be the next Z-Dog with a huge production around it. Yeah.
She's quitting. Okay.
Sorry.
It was all about the Benjamins for May. All about the Benjamins. But if you're doing it because you want to be the next, big voice and get a bunch of sponge, that's going to take years and years and years. And your time as a physician would have probably been better spent just spending that time seeing patients. Have more hours at your urgent care. Just make more money that way. So if you're doing it for financial reasons, this is not how you make money, unless somehow you manage to pivot it. But it's going to take a lot of investment up front to grow your following, and that's I find that to be the hardest part of podcasting. Actually, is growing my audience.
I think it's still cheaper than owning a boat.
Anything is cheaper than owning a boat.
Yeah, my experience.
Yeah. I think, I think I speak for everyone here too, is that I just, after a while, once the technical part is over, it's just fun, right? I mean, I enjoy doing this, and that's why I continue to do it. Certainly, I'm not making any money. I'm not cutting down clinically at work because that passive income of podcasting is just filling my coffers. But I think, it's just a good time. And I like talking to people. I like learning from them. And then seeing people that actually respond positively and say, hey, I really learned something from that episode. That's why we do it. Sure, it takes time. But after a while, like anything else, you create systems. And I think to that point, too, like if you screw up at work in the hospital, some really bad things can happen. If you put out a bad episode, nobody cares. Right? Like nothing's going to happen to your life.
Erase it. You can delete it.
That's right.
Or they just turn you off.
Exactly. Well, having just started ourselves and have just a couple episodes, we went from, I was researching, literally like Googling how to put out a podcast. There's another physician I follow on Instagram who started podcasting as well, who, had a little live stream on how to do it. There's courses, but I just sort of Googled what to do. And I'm like, there's a lot of steps. Exactly right. In getting set up. It's, but if you went through medical school and residency, just is another task. And so the setup, I agree, is all the work. And then where we're at right now is once you start, then everything's in place. It's much smooth. The thinking about the episodes, sort of putting that together, depending on your topic and how well you know it, or if you're having guests, then yes, that takes a little, a bit of thought. You might want to be doing some research for a week or 2 weeks, or maybe you don't need to, just because you already thought about this a lot and you've got a guest coming on and you can bang those out really quickly. Then it just varies in the flow from there, obviously. And, you can sit down and pop out one of these when you get home. But for us right now, where we're at, having the Doctor Podcast Network help us out, because we really were newbies and really knew nothing other than like everybody else does, looking it up. We have no friends or any, direct resources in the podcast world. So joining the Doctor Podcast Network has been so awesome, because we had so many questions about what to do, like, what's like Libsyn or Buzzsprout or throw out the words. I mean, they're just new to us. So having someone to guide you along the way, help that get set up, and then you're learning as you go, so that initially it's almost like, yes, your hand is held, and they've been helping us all along the way. And then later on, if we decide, we want to do all the audio or splicing, or I don't know, write all the description. I mean, if you want to do it all yourself, you can, but you sure don't have to. I mean, right now we are literally probably spending an hour and a half, 2 hours, not even 2 hours a week doing a podcast. So.
Yeah, if you're thinking about starting a podcast, I'll give you the advice that I got when I was first thinking about starting a blog. And I think this would apply reasonably to podcasts. I'd be interested to hear everybody else's thoughts. But when I was first thinking about starting a blog, I was talking to a guy because I started out by trying to create a website, which I don't recommend that. That's terrible. All right. Or at least I was terrible at that. So I spent hours and hours putting together a WordPress site, and it was awful. And so don't do it.
You don't like scrapbooking, I take it.
Oh no, I don't even. I like looking at scrapbooks if they're of my wedding, and that's it. That's as much scrapbooking as I can handle. So, but anyway, I talked to a web developer and I said, I'm not sure if I want to spend the money to do this or not. And he said, I tell you what you should do. Just don't set up a website yet. Just go home and write 20 blog posts. And if you get through 20 blog posts in a month, and you're not ready to kill yourself at the end of it, and you think this is actually kind of fun, I actually enjoyed that was a good time, I can't wait to post this because I know it's going to help people, or I know people are going to be interested in hearing this stuff, then great, you've passed the minimum viability test. Then come back and talk to me about the website stuff. And I think you can do the same thing with podcasting. I don't know that I'd do 20, but go record 5 episodes. You can get a free subscription to, like to Squadcast for a week, or get a free trial of Zoom for a week or something like that. And, you just spend a week and record like 5 episodes or 7 episodes of either you talking about stuff or you interviewing some people. And if at the end of that you go, you know what, this is not worth it, I do not want to spend the time with this, no worries. You got 7 great conversations out of it. You learned some stuff. You made some network connections. Awesome. That's a great week spent. And if you decide, hey, that was really fun, I can't wait to get this thing fired up, I want 107 episodes, I want 307 episodes, then great. Then you got that. But I think that's a really great way to start, is just try it. Like Brad was saying, just try it, see what happens. And if you like it, post it and keep going.
Yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that a lot. I think, I still get, I'm about 50 in now. And like, even like today I had a podcast episode go out with the dean of my medical school, actually. Check it out. But anyway, so I was like, last night, it's like, oh man, that episode goes out tomorrow. I can't wait. People are going to love that one. It's a great one. I still get very excited when I put out each episode, even though I record them long before they come out at this point. I still get excited with each one. So I think that's awesome advice. I want to get to some of these other questions here. Somebody asked a question, let me pull it up here, and said, what is the biggest takeaway piece of advice you've learned from hosting a show at this point? Tough one.
I'll tell you, it takes twice as long as you think it's going to. So I have 2 rules of thumb. It takes twice as long as you think it's going to, and you're not the exception to the rule. Those are my 2 rules. So it just takes a while, and you get better at it over time. But your first 10 episodes are going to be hard to get through. Just especially if you're doing your own editing, which I think I may be the only one in the group still doing all my own editing, and I need to stop because I need an intervention, guys. But it just takes some time, and you get better at it. You get more skilled at it. You figure out the way that you can kind of cut some corners and things like that. But it just takes a while to get started.
I'll tell you what I've learned, and I should have known this before I started podcasting, is that if you want to be successful long-term, and just even have a good time, you have to be consistent. You can't just put out a podcast or a blog or a YouTube video randomly whenever you feel like it because you happen to have something to say, because nobody will consistently follow you because they won't know when you're going to be on. And people do anticipate. So, but then I thought, well, that makes sense. I mean, if I'm practicing medicine, if I don't have the same hours and the same days every week, I'm not going to grow practice. It's exactly the same thing. So that was something I learned doing the podcasting. It kind of sunk that in more than when I was in practice, that you got to be consistent.
Okay, I can share something I'm currently learning, is that your voice or my voice is important. Like, we have a big voice, whatever those initials are after your name. I mean, if you're a physician, I mean, you have a huge megaphone. And even if you think your ideas aren't for everybody, they're for somebody. And I'm still learning this because I have guests on every single one of my shows. And except for my last show, my guest was my husband. So it was just my husband and I talking to each other. And that was the most embarrassing and vulnerable episode I had, because I almost didn't want to put it out because I didn't have any pearls of wisdom from somebody else. It was like me and my husband talking. So I think, and people still told me they liked it and they enjoyed it. So I just feel like we have so much to say. So many other people who don't know what they're talking about are saying so many things, and we can use our voice and teach, change the world one podcast at a time.
Agreed. I think as physicians, we often get caught up in expertise. And just because we're not one of the authors of Harrison's doesn't mean we're not an expert. Like, we're an expert. Between all of our training and all of our experience, we're expert. We may not be the preeminent person on coronavirus, but we know more than most. And so, we should recognize that we're experts. Although I would say what I've learned the most is kind of the opposite of what you just said, in that, because I'm interviewing people and I listen to my podcast afterwards and I'm like, God, I need to just shut up. I need to just shut up and let the other, because the reason, I'm not the one being interviewed. We're not talking about ears, noses, and throats, right? I could talk about earwax forever and nobody would ever listen. Nobody wants to hear.
Oh,
right?
I would probably listen.
But after, one episode, maybe I'll do an episode on cerumen impaction.
There you go.
Great. But they're on there because I've got a guest who has expertise in something, and I find myself when I listen to the episode interrupting more than I think I should. And so, that, and I think that also applies in the exam room. Doctors, we interrupt our patients a lot. Although I just did an episode on thing, and he validated that we actually can interrupt people as long as it's to focus them on what they're there for, right? So, but the thing that I've learned is I just need to stop interrupting so much and let the person talk.
I'll tell you another thing. Honestly, I don't know if you guys have experienced this. I would love to hear from our team here. Is that imposter syndrome is very, very real. So I know, just about every podcast episode I put out, and I look at whatever my download numbers are, and maybe they're better than I thought they were going to be, or maybe they're not as high as I thought they were going to be. And I'm looking at it going, oh man, is this even worth it? Because I hear about shows that are pulling in like 30, 40,000 downloads an episode and all these different things. And I'm like, well, I guess I'm useless. I guess this is kind of pointless. But, I remember someone told me, like, if you had 100 people download a podcast episode, I mean, that seems like a pretty tiny number, right? You're like 100 downloads, who cares? But if you were sitting in a room talking to 100 people at a conference or something, that's a big deal. That's a lot of people in a room that you're talking to. So I think it helps to have some perspective. Have you guys experienced that?
I've had more downloads than Luxembourg has people. That's the benchmark I use, is like, how many downloads have I had total? Well, there are a bunch of countries because I've got like over 100 episodes now. So, I don't get that many. I still get discouraged by it. And I'm like, maybe I should stop. It's taken up so much time. It's so discouraging. Oh, but there's this person that I want to talk to. So before I quit, I just want to get this, and then I cycle through that.
So
reminds
how
me
many,
of like
how many
dating.
Luxembourg units of downloads do we have? That's what we'll start using.
Yeah, exactly. You can use like, I can fill like stadiums filled with, given how many episodes I've done. And I think that's a really encouraging way to think about it, Brent. I think that's a great way to think about it.
And I also think the number of people we're talking to is a lot less than if you the Joe Rogan show, for example, right? Yeah, like a lot of our shows are targeting physicians or other health professionals in general. There's a lot less of those people, and then there's a lot less of those people that actually listen to podcasts too. So when I pivoted from just talking about communication in the team to just talking early career physicians, I cut my listenership by a huge amount because there's just that many less of those people. So, I mean, I think I agree with the how many people you're talking to in a conference room sentiment. I think about that all the time. And of course, I still get discouraged about when I look at my download numbers. But it is helpful to be like, well, yeah, there's 100 people who took the time out of their day to listen to me talk to somebody else is a pretty big deal. I mean, while I'm talking, I guess what I've learned is that people are very willing to come on your show. I feel like I've been nervous. Again, even reaching out to John, because I never knew John before I started a show, right? I just listened to his show, but I listened to all of his episodes. So he was kind of the celebrity in my mind. But now when I talk to John, he's one of the nicest people you'll ever meet, right? But I reached out to John and I was like,
claim to fame.
Oh man, if I wonder if he'll come on the show. And he was just like, yeah, sure. And I've had other guests, I read a book by a pretty famous author about goal setting because I'm into goal setting. And I emailed her and see if she'd come on the show. And she was like, yeah, of course. And a lot of these people that you'd think would never in a million years come on your, stinky little show that gets Luxembourg unit ×1 or whatever it is. People are very willing to talk with you and come on the show because it's, a low pressure thing. And it is a marketing hit for them as well. And our demographic that we're targeting generally has money and likes to spend money. So if you think of it that way, it's a win-win for both people. So that's what I learned. Oh, wow. I'm going to say this. So Ryan Inman here said that to be in the top 50% of all podcasts, you need about 150 downloads per show. So there's some perspective right there.
Yeah, I've seen those stats. I think the top 20% is around 250 or 300. Okay. So it is helpful, I think, to have that perspective. But it's funny. I feel like I get caught up in exactly what I tell people not to do when I'm doing my financial coaching. I tell people, don't pay attention to people's Facebook. Don't look at people's Instagram highlights about the vacation they just took or the house that they just bought. You can't afford it yet, and you don't need to buy it, and your time will come, but don't get caught up in looking at that. And I do exactly that. When I tell people not to do, I do that. I'm like, oh, they had 12,000 downloads every episode. Oh man, what am I doing? I should be there. What should I do? I need to buy some Facebook ads. It's like, no. You're going to go down a black hole. Don't do that.
I remember checking episode stats like literally within an hour after it coming out. I'm like, nobody's even awake. Like I put them out at like I was like 6. I was like, that's 6 people that listen within an hour. That's awesome. It's such a stupid thing, right?
I still don't even know how to check downloads. We're so new to this.
It's not worth it.
What we need to do is we need to do a conference of the DPN for listeners. And then when you actually talk to your listeners, they walk up to you and go, I've had your voice in my head like for 2 years now. It's just crazy because I've had people say that to me. Like, I heard your voice and I knew it was you, but I didn't know what you look like. It's just weird. So
you sound a little different on double speed, though. I'm telling you.
Well, you really are aggressive.
You got a lot of episodes. It was hard for me. I wanted to listen to all of them.
You're going to binge through all those?
Yeah.
Why not?
Oh, man. So let's see. Do I have any more questions here? Yeah. Okay. I want Brad to answer this question. Would you recommend starting a podcast?
You know the answer to that. No. we don't. When I started my podcast, there weren't really any other, personal or professional development podcasts for physicians out there, at least none that I could find. And now all y'all have them. So I wouldn't have had the need to start my podcast. If your podcast had been out there at the time, I would have just listened to yours. So, we don't need, I know rising tide lifts all boats. You pull in people that weren't listening to podcasts before, but it's a lot of competition, guys. I don't need more competition.
You don't want anyone else to come in. I see.
Yeah.
Just like you shouldn't write another cookbook. There's too many cookbooks in the world.
There are too many cookbooks in the world. And the fact that I would never buy a cookbook means that no one, and that's I think something wrong that I do with my podcast is I just assume that everyone's like me. So like they download it the way I download it. They listen to it the way I listen to it. And so, but that's not necessarily true. Just because I would never buy a cookbook doesn't mean someone shouldn't write a cookbook.
Exactly.
Right.
I think there's a cookbook episode in your future. Cookbooks and earwax. There's your title. Nailed it.
We have The other thing,
Brent, go ahead.
well, I was going to say the other thing that you could do is instead of starting your own podcast, is just try going on other people's podcasts. Just reach out to 30 people and ask if you could be a guest on their show and tell them something that you can talk about that would be relevant to their audience. You may get 3 people that say yes. Go on the show and see if it's something you even enjoy. It's a good way to try it out.
Yeah,
that's true.
Brad, I'll have you on to talk about earwax.
It's going to be exciting. I can spin it in, and the way I see it is when I'm taking out earwax in the office, I'm kind of like a barber, because it's typically not something that requires a lot of like concentration on my part. So it's an opportunity for me to like chat with my patient, find out how they're doing, find out how their day and their life is going. It's
oh my gosh,
like
I didn't know you actually took the earwax out. I thought it would be like somebody else, like the MA or the nurse or some PA.
No, the physician, surgeon.
You got the
taking out
fancy
earwax.
device though for sucking that out.
Yeah.
Microscope. That's kind of cool.
You don't sit there with like a
It's very
candle or
cathartic.
something, right?
No ear candles, please. No ear candles. But yeah,
we could talk about earwax some more, but I do have an important question here from those who are taking their time out of their day to listen to us talk about earwax. What is the DPN? So the Doctor Podcast Network, we are all members of is a podcasting community for physicians. Really, I think we can all kind of discuss what we think it is, but it's a community that helps us all with our shows, both with advice from each other, helps secure like ads and things like that to help from the monetization standpoint. In addition, has a great resources of just people behind us helping with anything we need. If we need graphics, they could be done. If we need help with editing, that could be done through them as well. So I think, if anyone else wants to talk about what the Doctor Podcast Network is, as this talk is brought to you by both Kate, me, and the Doctor Podcast Network. So somebody else could talk about it.
Well, I would say that the reason behind it that I'm aware of, and I'm not a founder, is that it's to promote more physicians to get in this space so that they can share whatever their expertise, their mission, their vision, and all that out in the world. And so I think physicians have a lot to say, and that's kind of why I like DPN. Is it's fostering more of us getting out here and talking about whatever we want to talk about.
Helps amplify our voices as physicians, getting us into more people's ears. And the next question is, how long has it been around?
20 days, right? The official launch was January 1st. So, we were all talking and communicating and kind of loosely part of it, but it officially launched, beginning of 2021.
Right.
Yes.
And May, you launched with DPN, right?
Correct. Yes.
So could you talk about like how that worked and was it a la carte kind of service or open the box and here it is? How did that work?
So, yeah, I would say it's kind of an a la carte sort of service. So for us having no background or limited knowledge in podcasting, we'd be asking questions and on how to do it. They literally held our hand all along the way. So Desiree Leos, who's I call her Queen D because she can do it all. They will hook you up if you have any, if you're starting fresh like we were, what kind of equipment? I mean, they can answer those questions. And then how do we get it out onto the podcast network? They will help you do that. They will literally get your username and passwords to all those places like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, and then put it out there for you. They will then teach you how to even just, if you have questions about how to set up the format for your podcast in 40 minutes and how to make it so that people want to listen. So you're not just chatting about your day for the first 10 minutes. And then all the way down to helping you write the description. They can take care of all the audio editing. They will tell you how to record it on Squadcast, send the links to them. They'll mix it. They'll do as much as you want, or you can research and do as little. So for us, it's literally been hand holding along the way. And then once we get more experience, we can then like I said, do as much as we want or source it out or keep using them. But it is literally the podcasting for dummies for doctors. I mean, that's how I'm going to sell it, because
This should have been the name.
So for us, it's been great. Plus, on top of that, I should know this off the top of my head. Maybe Desiree can correct me. Is it 8 or 10 of us that are sort of founding members in this? I can't remember if any guys do that join together. And so now we have a nice little community so that we can collaborate together. We can share ideas. We can share amongst ourselves in our own little chat site that we use, ideas for how to advertise, market it, what we are all doing on Facebook or Instagram, or how to make an audiogram, which I didn't know, and I just learned to do this week. Super cool. But to collaborating with one another, helping each other promote each other podcasts so that you can gain listeners and get that marketability right away. I mean, all these features. I mean, we've met everybody, and you're getting connected with other podcasters and who are answering questions. So right from, yes, with the one-on-one help to now you're a community, other physician podcasters, you have access to collaborate with guests, how to monetize it, etc. So, I mean, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, getting some info here. The soft launch was on October. We formally launched in January. Currently, there's a total of 16 members in the Doctor Podcast Network, with our newest member being Heather Hammerstedt. So we're running out of time here, everybody, but I just want to say thank you for joining Kate and I today and doing this little thing here. If you want more information on the Doctor Podcast Network, it's easy enough, drpodcastnetwork.com. And you can reach out to people there and they can help you along the way. So any final words from people, go for it.
I'm just going to go do an interview in 3 minutes. So it's been fun.
I want to know a little bit more about Brad's setup there. Are those sheets on the wall, or
Those are
okay?
Yeah.
Because this is why I'm part of DPN. It's because
Yeah.
I'm trying to figure out how to get rid of that echoey sound, and he's got it set up right there, I think.
just like some curtains and some curtains and blankets in the
look at
basement.
that.
There's carpet.
Oh, yes. And then you need these things in the ceiling.
Yep. I got a couple of those, but I actually put them on my desk. So I lined the desk with those things. So
Wow, beautiful. Okay. You guys need to share some pictures or some links in our little channel so I know where to buy these things.
There you go.
Going.
See you, John. Thanks.
Hi, John. The famous John.
It's famous.
Yeah, this is what I love about our network for those people that are on here watching, is that just sharing ideas and collaborating like this, where, Kate wants to know how to make a padded room. So we can say
Top for podcasting.
I do.
exactly. Super fun.
I just want to give a quick plug to Dave Draginas and Ryan Inman, because when I was first starting on my show, both of them independently reached out to me and were like, I see you've got a new show. I'd like to have you on my show as a guest. And can I connect you with anyone? And this was before the network was even close to existing. So it wasn't like they were trying to get me to join their network that they were going to form. This was like maybe a year and a half before that, which in podcasting years is like, dog years. It's like a century ago. So it was just altruism. Like these are the guys that are with Desiree that are running the network, and they're just good people. So when I heard that they were putting it together, my thought was, of course, because anything that they're doing, I would be interested in collaborating with, just because of their characters as people. Like they are just, and Desiree included in that, now that I'm getting to know Desiree better, like these are just good people, and they're looking to just help other people. Like that's what they're doing. And so anything that they're involved with, I'm involved with. So I've got to go too, because I've got an interview in a couple of minutes. But I just wanted to so Doctors Unbound podcast is Dave Draginas is, Ryan Inman's is Financial Residency. And, they're just, and Desiree is the glue that holds us all together. So they're just all good people.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yep.
and they really are. I mean, I remember last year my show hadn't even started yet, and Dave and Ryan had reached out to me about joining the network even before the show had launched. I mean, so I'd been on their shows, or I'd been on Dave's show anyway. And so like Brad says, there's good guys. And I think that that's one of the things that's really helpful is that they really want to bring the right people on. It's not about, how many downloads can we connect to the network, or, how much revenue can we bring in? We want good people to work with. We want people that we enjoy being on each other's shows. We like to help each other out. We're looking to build each other up. I mean, that's what it's all about. It's a great community.
Right. From our point of view, we had been doing the live streams on Facebook, and full disclosure, Ryan is our financial advisor. We work with him and his company. After having me discovered him and his podcast, it's a roundabout thing, but he, saw what we were doing on our Facebook lives and really liked, our contact, our interaction with the people on our lives, and just the dynamic, and approached us, and throughout his idea that he and Dave had in establishing this doctor podcast network to help other physician podcasters and create this baby that it is today. It's already, it's a newborn, but it's so cool. And it was a brilliant idea. And I'm like, yeah, if Ryan Inman's hand is in it, he's got the golden wand. And so I'm all on board. Yeah, really cool.
Agreed. Yeah. Dave and Ryan are excellent, and Desiree holds us together. We couldn't do it without her. So
Queen D.
Queen D, that's it.
It's being called that or not, but I should ask.
Well, I'm calling her that now. So
Yeah.
Too late.
All right, everybody. Thanks so much for joining Kate and I and the members of the Doctor Podcast Network. Please reach out to us if you need anything. We're always happy to help and share some more advice. And if you're thinking about making a podcast, or you have one already, come join us.
Join us. We'd love to be friends with you.
Exactly.
And thanks, Andrew. We're going to definitely do this again.
Yes. Thank you for putting this together.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Bye,